Howdy folks, Dreadshells here and welcome back to World of Tanks. I hope all of you guys are doing well and that you had a good holidays, good Christmas, and a good New Year's. Sorry it's been so long since I've done my last video. I've just been really super busy in real life, spending time with family and my job and all that stuff and taking care of things. So I haven't had a ton of time to make a video. So I'm going to try and rectify that here today. And today we're going to be looking at the T71DA, also formerly known as just the T71, the Tier 7 American Scout tank. And now it's differentiated from the other T71 that is now in the game currently in the T71 CMCD, which is the other Tier 7 American Scout tank. And I might be doing a video on this tank down the road sometime, just to give my opinion on what I think this tank is good at compared to the original T71 or T71DA. I can tell you, even though I haven't played a lot of games in the T71 CMCD, is that the CMCD is a lot better as far as accuracy is concerned, and also at shooting on the move. So this guy has a lot more of an accurate fire, and of course the T71DA or T71 has always been really good at firepower when it comes to burst damage, since it's a 6-shot autoloader. And basically, my rough opinion about this tank, it's pretty good at scouting. As far as view range is concerned, it's not a good vision scout when it comes to camo rating. It's got one of the lower camo ratings, or the lowest. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's towards the bottom end of camo rating as far as the Tier 7 scouts. So it's not a very sneaky scout, and you have to play accordingly. You got to realize that enemies will be able to spot you further away than if you were in something with better camo rating, like for instance one of the French scouts, like the AMX 1357 for example, or the LTG. Enemies will be able to spot you at further distances on average in this tank, and that's something that most of the American scouts share in common, is that they do not have a very good camo rating. I would say starting at the T37 and working your way up from there. The CMCD also doesn't have very good camo rating. The original T71, the Bulldog, of course, doesn't have very good camo rating. The T49 also does not have very good camo rating. Although all these tanks have very good view range, though, so that is something that is a plus in the Vision Scout department. I do have the premium T92. I have only played one game in it so far, so haven't really gotten an opportunity to play this tank a lot yet. So this tank, the premium Tier 8 American Scout, I believe does have a pretty decent camo rating though, so it is kind of an exception to most of the American Scouts when it comes to camo rating. And I don't have the Sheridan yet. I have unlocked it. But I need to grind the credits to buy it yet, and I'm not sure what the camo rating is on the Sheridan. If it's anything like the rest of the line, it's probably not a very sneaky a scout tank, and it's more about firepower and gun handling. And I'm actually kind of struggling, to be honest, when it comes to the higher tier scouts coming back to the game. I'm not playing very well, which is definitely a possibility, or I'm not used to how the meta has changed in the game at the higher tiers. The maps seem very, very small for higher tier gameplay in general, and not just higher tier scouts. And it's very difficult to play tactically in scout tanks, and it feels like you're more of a medium that's faster and got better camo rating, but less hit points and less armor. And it doesn't really feel like you can use the strengths of your tank very well on a decent number of maps. So you kind of just end up playing a second line support role on a decent number of maps. And it's only like when you start getting into the hybrid maps like Lakeville, or the open maps like Malinovka, Prokhorovka, Sand River, maybe another hybrid map like Westfield, where you can actually start using the strengths of your tank, which is mobility and view range and camo rating. And I haven't been performing very well, to be honest, in my higher tier scouts. So I'm gonna have to try and adjust my gameplay. Maybe I'm playing too aggressively, I'll just keep you guys posted on how I'm adjusting to it and see if I can figure something out that works for me. But anyway, getting back to the T71 DA. The strengths of this tank, as it's all about the firepower in this tank, and it's a 6-shot autoloader. And I can't remember what the interclip reload is. 2 seconds between each shell, and you fire 6 shells in the magazine, doing an average damage of 150. So that's what I think 300 damage total for the potential of the clip on average if you pin all of your shells, which is quite a bit. And quite honestly, I think this tank is a little bit overpowered in its tier as a tier 7 scout. Now that it only sees +2 matchmaking instead of the +3 originally, the +3 matchmaking when it was originally just the T71. And so now this 900 damage clip potential is extremely powerful. It was powerful before, but now it's even more powerful now that you're facing just +2. They did nerf the penetration of the gun. I think it was originally 175 millimeters of penetration. I can't remember for sure. I'll have to look up the previous stats of the gun and maybe some of the other statistics of the tank. So I'll throw them up on screen for you, and you guys can look at them side by side as I talk about the characteristics of the tank and see how they've changed and what they've changed about the tank. But even with them nerfing the penetration of this gun down to 145, I still think that this tank is really, really powerful when it comes to firepower. You just have so much burst potential, and you can finish off targets very quickly, find isolated targets, find vulnerable targets that have overextended, and you can do a lot of damage to them in a hurry before they're able to get into cover, or you can destroy the enemy tanks before they get into cover. You can see that the weakness of this tank for the trade-off of burst damage is the accuracy. 0.39 is quite poor. No beating around the bush. It's quite poor accuracy. So this tank is not really a sniper. I've noticed that quite a bit in my playing this tank after coming back, that it's not very good at laying fire down range, especially with wargaming changing how the penetration mechanics work for scouts as far as penetration over distance. If you guys have played the game for any period of time, you'll know that penetration is lost over distance when it comes to AP shells, and slightly more with APCR shells. But Wargaming changed it so that even more penetration is lost over distance with scout tanks compared to other tanks, because they felt like the scouts were too good of snipers, which I disagree with. And they also nerfed some of the accuracy of the tanks. So I kind of feel like Wargaming have kind of put scouts into a corner a little bit when it comes to having a role in the game, because they have this corridor close range meta for a decent number of the maps in the game. But they have also nerfed the gun characteristics of the tank, and so the scouts don't really have that good of a vision role at the higher tiers because the vision saturation is so high, and the gun handling. Another thing that Wargaming have nerfed is the damage per minute. So you're not able to lay down your fire when you do have an opportunity to penetrate and do damage to yourselves as quickly now, and it leaves you more vulnerable and exposed because it takes longer for your gun to reload, takes longer for you to do damage and eliminate the target, and it gives the enemy team time to maybe send someone back and help out their teammate that you're attacking. So I think that Wargaming nerfed too many of the characteristics. I think they should have left one of them alone. Specifically, I think they should have left damage per minute alone. I think that was fine. And they could have left the penetration and accuracy mechanics the way they were. But sorry, going on a long rant there. Aiming time is okay. That's not very good. It's okay, but this coupled with the 0.39 dispersion means that, like I said before, you're not. This tank isn't really a sniper, and if you are trying to shoot long distances, you're going to have to stop, take your time, and aim extra long. And lead your shots more carefully to be able to accurately put fire down range, or as at least accurately as the base the base dispersion of this gun will allow. This tank has worse dispersion values when on turret traverse and on hull traverse than the T71 CMCD, for example. So that's kind of my opinion on the firepower. Very good burst damage, and I think it has a check mark and a plus for the T71 DA when it comes to firepower. Survivability. This tank, it's a light tank, and it's it isn't going to bounce anything. You're not going to get shot and not take damage unless you get tracked, which I have been noticing. I get tracked a lot more often now than I used to before for some reason. I don't know, maybe my playstyle has changed and I'm exposing myself more. But it seems like I'm taking a lot more module damage um, uh, currently than I did before I took a break from World of Tanks. 884 hit points. The survivability of a scout tank is your mobility. It isn't in your hit points or your armor. So, I mean, 840 hit points. I mean, two shots from 120 or 122 millimeter guns, and you're dead or almost dead. So, try not to get shot in this tank at all, or in any scout as a general rule. And use your mobility to avoid getting yourself into bad situations. On maps where you can actually use your camera rating and view range, use those elements to keep the distant enemy at distance, keep them at arm's length, and dictate the terms of engagement, as whether vision or engaging direct firepower yourself, to keep yourself alive. Your survivability is not in hit points or armor when it comes to scouts. It's all in your view range, and it's all in your camo rating. So moving on to mobility, this tank is pretty decent. I haven't looked at the specific stats on Tanks GG. Maybe I can pull it up here real quick. Okay, so mobility here. Top speed is 64 kilometers an hour. That's pretty good. That's above average. And I think that's top in class for most of the Tier 7 scouts, I believe. Reverse speed 23. That's pretty standard. Horsepower to ton ratio is 24.76. Stock, so I think that's on the higher end, or maybe it's average here. Let me look at all the other Tier 7. Yeah, that's about average. There's some other scouts that have better horsepower to ton ratio, like the WZ-131, although the WZ-131 only gets a 60 kilometers top speed. And the LTG also has a slightly better horsepower to ton ratio. So this tank is good enough when it comes to horsepower to ton ratio. Terrain resistances are middle of the pack as well. They're not the best and they're not the worst when it comes to comparing them to the other Tier 7 scouts. And as far as overall practical application of the terrain resistances, I think they're fine. The turret traverse and tank traverse, I think, are also good enough. Nothing particularly standing out. All the mobility statistics of this tank are pretty much average or above average. So this tank is good enough, and it's a pretty agile machine. So mobility really isn't a problem for this tank. It'll get you where you need to go. But it doesn't have any really standout characteristics, maybe other than maybe its top speed, which isn't anything particularly special, other than it's higher than most of the rest of the Tier 7 scouts. So let's move on from there. And like I said, I'll be throwing up on the screen anything that I find that Wargaming have changed about the statistics of this tank in each of these categories compared to when before. They've changed all the scouts and they introduced the Tier 10s. So I'm sure you guys have already familiarized yourself with them as you've been playing these tanks 7, 8, 9 months ahead of me. So you're probably familiar already with the changes, but I'll do it anyway for anyone who hasn't checked. And like I said, now going into the concealment as far as camo rating is concerned, the American scouts, their camo rating is not their strong suit as a general rule. Like I said before, the T71 DA only gets a 14.08% base camo rating. This is 30.67 in game because I have 100% camo, brothers in arms, vents, and food. So that modifies the camo rating up here to a little bit above 30, which is not very good. If I compare that to, let's say, if I go over here to my Tier 7 Scout and look at the AMX 1357 GF, you can see that I almost have 37 camo rating on my French Tier 7 Scout there. And if I go over here to the Russian scouts here and then look at my LTG, I almost have 42. So this has almost 12 points better camo rating, well, than my T71 DA does, the LTG. So I think that you basically have to use your view range and realize that other mediums and other scouts will be able to spot you quite easily as you get close to the edge of the view rate, 445-meter view range circle, and as you start to get closer than 445 meters, they will be able to spot you if you're not using soft cover, and if they have equivalent crews than you. So just be mindful of that if you're playing vision games in this tank. View range is quite good. I can't remember what the base view range is. I think the Wargaming left it at 400, but I can't remember what it is, to be honest. Let's take off the food here. Well, yeah, it must be 400 here because that's still that amount. So I have the equipment loadout here a little bit different than I did in the past. Going back to the view range here real quick, it is the strong suit of this tank as far as vision is concerned. So 400 meters base view range is really good, especially at tier 7, and especially since Wargaming have nerfed the view ranges of many of the mid and lower tier scout tanks, and in my opinion, perhaps over nerfed some of them. So take advantage of the really good view range at tier 7 here. I think at this tier, the vision game still matters because a lot of the tier 6, 7, 8, and 9 tanks don't have maximum view range, aka they're not going to be approaching 500 meters view range, 450 to 500 meters view range, depending on if they're medium. A lot of the tier 10 tanks already have 400 meters base view range, which I think is kind of ridiculous. Wargaming should do a better job of allocating view range by class. And also designing maps where view range actually matters. And I'm not saying make all the maps open like Proc, that would be silly. But I would like to see more maps like Lakeville, more maps like Fisherman's Bay, where you have a hybrid, like you have a spot on the map where you can play vision games. And for the tanks that don't want to play vision games or rely on their scouts to spot for them, they do still have an alternative of going to a closer range engagement area of the map. So I would like Wargaming to design more of those kind of maps and less of the corridory maps like Tundra, like Windstorm, and maps like that where it's so predictable where everybody's going to go. And it feels like all the tanks are the same, right? The maps make the game, in my opinion. After the tanks and the players, the maps is the world of tanks, right? So if Wargaming is looking for a single area of the game that they can work on to improve, make the most for their return and their effort, map design would be my #1 recommendation. They should make this game more of a paper, rock, scissors game by map design. So sorry about my long inserted rants here, but you guys did say in the comments of the last video I made like this that you appreciated my input on the tank and my thoughts on the game and how it's changed, so that's what I'm doing. But I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. So moving on to the crew loadout. As far as the T71 DA, nothing special. I would go with the standard training on any of my scouts. If you're first beginning a new crew in the T71 DA, I would start with camo on your crew, also called Concealment, and train that on all 3 of your crew members. This tank has 3 crew members. It has a commander, it has a gunner, and a driver. Which makes training some of the other perks a little bit tricky. But since you don't have a 4th skill member to get one of the other skills going at the same time, the French scouts also have the same problem, like the AMX 12T. Most of the French scouts, I think, have the 3-man crew as well. But anyway, train camo for your first skill. And then once you get to 100% on your camo, if you have the gold, go ahead and retrain your commander for 6th Sense, and then start camo for his 2nd skill. And then for the gunner, once you reach 100% camo on him, then go ahead and train snapshot. I would for your second skill, and then for the driver, I would go ahead and train smooth ride as your second skill after you reach 100% on camo for him. And then once you reach 100% on your second skill for all your crew members, then I would go back, and once again, this is all stipulating on if you have the gold or credits or however you want to train it in this order, but once you do that, go back and retrain all the crew members for Brothers in Arms, which is what I've done here. And then Camel Rating or Sixth Sense, it doesn't matter, as long as you have Sixth Sense to 100%. But I did Brothers in Arms, Sixth Sense, and then Camel Rating. Started on the third skill. And then once again, restarting snapshot once you retrain for Brothers in Arms. So restart snapshot for your third skill for the gunner, and then restart smooth ride again for your third skill for the driver. And then once you've reached 100% on your third skill, then you can actually start training the situational awareness and the recon. And this is what I'm talking about with the tricky part of training for this crew and for the French crews. When you have a three-man crew, the commander is the radio operator, I believe, in this tank. So unfortunately, you're not able to train your vision perks and your vision, your vision skills earlier in the skill train and your skill sets as you would in other tanks, and so you have to wait an extra skill level basically before you can practically start training them. In my opinion, I mean, you can train these earlier if you wish, but unfortunately, the commander is also the radio operator, so you have to train situational awareness on him and recon as well. So it's not like you can train recon on the commander and situational awareness on a loader or a radio operator like you can other scout crews. So you're training up your vision skills on the T71 DA crew is going to take a little bit longer. Fortunately, like I said before, this tank has already good base view range as it is. So, but I do find that having really good total view range from all your crew and your equipment and using food is really important in scouts, because it gives you that little bit of an extra edge in outspotting other scout players who maybe don't want to invest that much into view range, as far as when you're talking about the hypotheticals of an open map, and also other mediums or other tanks that have a decent base view range themselves. So that's why I usually use food on a lot of my scout crews, because it isn't really so much for the gun handling or anything or reload, although the food does help with that. But most of the time, if I'm using food on a scout, it's because I like the increase it does for the view range. So and then, like I said, situational awareness, recon. I have armor. I can't remember why I trained armor on this tank. To be honest, it would be better to train repairs first on this, so that's kind of a mistrain right there. I would train repairs first for the fourth skill on this crew, for the gunner, and then off-road driving I have for the driver. I can't remember. You can also do repairs on this as well. That might be a more practical skill to train before off-road driving on this. And then now going to equipment loadout. There's several different viable equipment loadouts that you can use on this tank. Because of my equipment loadout, I use food. You don't have to use food, like I said, if it isn't practical for you as far as credits and economy-wise is concerned. You can do a double vision loadout, so you can do, instead of vents, you can do like binoculars, coated optics, and vert stabs. I wouldn't drop the vertical stabilizers for any other piece of equipment in this tank, simply because this tank isn't very good at aiming and shooting on the move already. So I would keep the vertical stabilizers no matter what equipment fit you use. So but that's one particular equipment loadout that you can use. You can use binoculars, coated optics, and vertical stabilizers. You can use the equipment loadout that I have here, where I have vents, coated optics, and vert stabs. Because I'm only using coded optics, I'm using Cola to boost rather my base view range. Say that fast 5 times. And that way it gives me a little bit of an extra edge. And once I get to recon 100% of my commander, this base view range should be closer to 500 view range, which I found is kind of the sweet spot for scouts, at least on maps where it actually matters, where view range actually matters. And that is the point where you actually start spotting a lot of stuff, even if they're sitting in bushes, or spotting them better. So that's a couple different viable equipment loadouts. I don't know. I'm trying to think of any other equipment loadout you could use. You could go with a maximum vision equipment loadout if you'd like. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend dropping the vertical stabilizer, but if you're more of a conservative player or a passive player, you could definitely do vents, coated optics, and binocs, or coated optics, binocs, and camo net. But I wouldn't really recommend the coated optics, binocs, and camo net just because this tank isn't really that good of a passive spotter because its base camo rating is so poor. And it's more of a combat scout. It's more about its firepower as its strength, so you need to be a little bit more active to take advantage of that. So those are the kind of equipment loadouts I'd recommend for this tank. So sorry about the long pre-game ramble. Maybe I'll throw a link in the video so people who aren't interested in listening to the pre-game ramble can just go ahead and skip to the gameplay. But anyway, I'm going to show you guys a game now in the T71 DA on Ensk, which I played I don't know, about a week or more ago. This is back when I was actually sick, and had a fever. I can't remember. I had 104, 105 fever, something like that. I can't remember. Had a pounding headache, and my head felt like it was underwater. And you guys will be able to tell that I did not play my best game at all in the game that I'm about to show you. I make a lot of mistakes. So, but anyway, enough foreshadowing. Let's jump into the game on Ensk. All right, so here we are in the game on Ensk, and I'll try to keep everything concise now that I did almost a half-hour ramble. I'm just looking at the time that I did on my last video clip. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. Sorry about the long ramble. Oh my gosh, that'll be painful to upload. Anyway, let's get into the game here. Tier 7 game, so that means that we're top tier. Like I said, always in other videos, the higher the tier you are in the game, the more obligation you have to, as a general rule, not only to be a vision role for your team, but also a damage role for your team. And let's look at the map. To also help determine our role, it's Ensk. It's not a very vision type of a map at all. It's a very small map. Even at this tier, it's a very small map. And so I'm mainly going to be predetermining that I'm going to be doing a damage roll for my team. So let's just start the game. There is a little bit of a or early battle vision roll that you can do at the start of games here, and this is on the railway tracks. This also works this way on standard mode. Normally I would be looking at going into cover if I had an enemy vision tank like that VK2801 get so close to me, but because it's mid-tier, I'm basically thinking that he doesn't have a very good crew. And I rely a lot on my crew, and relying on the fact that hopefully that I have a better crew than other players to keep me safe when it comes to vision play. So we get a couple of shots in there early down the railway lines, so that's okay, and Artie gets a little bit of a shot in here. So you could say that a lot of my bad early, or I should say a lot of my bad misplay in this game happens early. I'm kind of in limbo mode here. I'm not really doing anything. I'm not helping spot for my team. I'm not helping do damage for my team. I'm not putting myself in a position to do damage for my team. And I'm doing something really, really stupid here. Just trying to clip out this VK, wasting half a clip to eventually kill him. And waste another shot here, tracking the Black Prince for no reason. You can see how badly I'm playing here. To my slight defense, I did have I was quite ill. I had a really bad fever. Not sure why the KV-85 didn't shoot me there. I'm not sure if he was reloading still or not. We can see that he's using the big gun. And that shows really, really bad awareness of the map design of this area. There was a gap in the railroad tracks where he could shoot me. I wasn't paying attention to that, and I get whacked there. And I've already lost most of my hit points because I've been fronting, right? Meaning I'm engaging enemy tanks frontally, and that is something that you almost never want to do in a scout, or pretty much never want to do in a scout. So I've lost all my hit points for almost nothing, right? Yeah, I killed the VK-2801. He was a 2-shot, and I killed the entirety of a KV-85. But it was definitely not worth it. We finish off the 2801 there because he was a 1-shot. And now you can see I'm still in limbo mode here. What I should be doing, either I should be moving more aggressively down the 5-6 line, trying to figure out where the AT-7s on the enemy team are. There's a quicker reaction shot there. Luckily the Hellcat doesn't shoot us, otherwise he could have potentially killed us. We'll get lucky there that the Black Prince doesn't hit us there. I get really, really lucky in this game. I do pay for my really bad and poor decisions in this game, but I also get lucky in this game as well. So now I'll just try to play a ring around the rosy here, waiting for my team to support me. Right now the tactical situation is here is if we're going to win this game, we got to kill out the enemy tanks that are on the east side of the map here on the 890 lines, before the enemy tanks that are in the middle, and on the west side the KV-2, the SU-100, and both of the AT-7s are able to wrap around and support. So we have to go around and kill this Black Prince quickly. Once again, lollygagging and sitting in one spot, letting the Black Prince shoot me for free when there was no need to. I was just sitting there. So I do play really badly in this game, but it turns out okay in the end. Once again, really bad tactically decision, exposing myself to the Black Prince when he was already pre-aimed at me. Black Prince has a quick reload there. Just kind of waiting for him to turn and engage the AT-7. But he's pretty much ready to shoot me, so I can't engage this Black Prince, unfortunately. Now that I see that he wants to go around and kill me, I have to turn around and run now. And I'm hoping that my AT-7 teammate can kill him here now that he's distracted. And now that we take a quick look in third person to see which way the SU-100 is looking, something that I should have been doing this whole time with the other engagements, and saw that he was looking at our Stir Emil, so we were able to take him out. Now the previous tactical situation still applies. My AT-7 teammate and myself have to kill this Black Prince quickly before his other teammates, the enemy AT-7s, are able to get back up. There we go. We get the Black Prince killed. All the time here the S-51 is in play. The S-51 goes ahead and does 300 damage there to the to my AT-7 teammate there. And unfortunately now both AT-7s on the enemy team are there, and they kind of can support each other. So I'm looking for a shot here. Go for the track shot here, and what you're trying to do when you're trying to pen an AT-7, you want to try and shoot right above the track there, so you're not trying to shoot into the spaced armor. You'll see a little bit later in the game how terrible I am with my marksmanship when it comes to shooting the AT-7s. And right now my only hope of winning this game is I need to find Artie, and I need to kill Artie first. Thinking a couple steps ahead, right? So I can't outplay the AT-7s with Artie shooting at me from above, right? So I need to take him out first, and then maybe I have a hope of outmaneuvering the AT-7s. So unfortunately, the S-51 does know I'm coming because of the direction that I was driving when I was last spotted, but I really didn't have a choice because I need to get to him before the AT-7s can close the distance and defend him. So it's kind of how it is. Now some really bad misplay right here. Luckily, we're able to shoot him through the wall. Shoot him through the wall there. Luckily, because he's shooting high explosive, that the destructible building in between me and him takes the shot. Once again, more luck right there. Tried to do some misdirection there by trying to feint that I was driving south down the one line as I was last spotted, and maybe that would give me some advantage here relocating. But unfortunately, the one of the AT-7s on the enemy team has just come back to the north, and he spotted me trying to drive back on the north side of the map. So that spoils my mind game plan. So now I'm trying to relocate here. Now that we just saw that one of the AT-7s drove into the cap circle there, didn't spot him there as I crossed the diagonal street there from the C1 to E5. So we know that he's not sitting on the north side of the cap circle, or at least on the more open side of the cap circle. Trying to do a little bit more of a mind game here. And unfortunately, the AT-7 is following my exact last path here, unfortunately. I'm stalling for time, right? I'm kiting. The term kiting is here. I'm trying to get one of these AT-7s in a position where they're by themselves and they can't defend the other one. Technically, they are by themselves here, but because I'm a one-shot and I played so poorly early in the game, I can't afford to take a shot of damage to flank one of the AT-7s if they are by themselves. So not only do I have to catch one of the AT-7s out when he's by himself and his teammate can't support him, but I also have to catch them out and with them looking the other direction and not expecting me to be coming from one of the directions. So that's my goal here, and my first opportunity for that type of situation is going to come up right here. We're able to ambush one of the AT-7s, and his other AT-7 teammate is out of position. He's on the other side over on the 1 or the 2 line, and he isn't able to help his teammate. Unfortunately, don't pen all my shells there. We could have killed that AT-7. Some bad anticipation of where the other AT-7 would be, and I get lucky there that he doesn't shoot and kill me. Some poor tanking in that area on my part. And now this AT-7 has actually got me trapped, right? I can't cross one of the main avenues anymore because he's able to excuse me, I had to cough, can just turn and shoot me. So I basically have to wait for him to get so close to me that I can just outmaneuver him. Very strange that he spotted me there and I didn't spot him. So he's sitting right there, he's waiting for me. I'm not sure if there's some poor modeling of that building there, but he spotted me there and I didn't him. But now we know where he is, of course, because we proxied him. And now basically I'm waiting for him to engage me here. Take a really big gamble that he was looking there to originally to my left side. Some really poor driving right there. And unfortunately I wasted my flanking opportunity by my poor driving, and he was able to rotate and turn around. And so I can't engage him anymore. Some more bad driving there, driving over that little well curb or whatever that is there, switch, something or other. I'm not sure what that is, but it's non-destructible, and I almost flipped my tank. You can tell that I wasn't feeling very well and playing very well in this game, so I made lots of mistakes. So I'm making sure to point them out here so you guys know how to not do them yourselves. No one plays a perfect game, so it's always good to learn from your mistakes. Now, tactically, what I'm trying to do is that because I went all the way around the map, I don't want to engage from the south, right? From where I am right now, because they might be expecting me to be coming from the south because they saw me driving over into the east side of the map, right? So what I want to do is I actually want to go all the way around the map again and come up and engage them either from the west or from the north. And that way, hopefully I will be able to come up on them from a direction that they're not expecting and come up with one of them not defending the other, being able to defend the other, like the initial round of shots I got the last time on that other AT7. So we know one of them is capping. There we go, and we correctly predicted that the AT7 was looking south, right? So he was expecting me to be flanking him from that direction. So it's good that I came over here from the west side of the map, so that was some good anticipation there. Trying to feint that I was going to go north there after I killed the AT7. This is a really important trick that you guys can use either on open maps or in maps in games like this where there's only if it's a one-on-one or 2 versus 2 and you're trying to outthink the enemy or outfeint the enemy. Just drive in one direction. If you're in a mobile type tank, drive in one direction until you're unspotted and then do a 180 and drive back the other direction, and that way maybe you can give yourself an advantage when it comes to position and mobility. Now I'm just rolling a hard 6 here, thinking that the AT7 would be looking the wrong way, and he was, fortunately. Thinking that he wouldn't be looking this correct direction. Trying to shoot in between the tracks and the spaced armor there, so most of my shots will pin. And now I have this AT7, right? There's no way he can win right now. I just have to reload. And I just need to keep behind him here. Technically, he could reverse up to the side of the building here. And now you're going to see me derp my marksmanship here. There's no reason for me to be shooting into the back, or excuse me, into the side of this AT7 like this. So I wasted 2 of my shells there, and I almost throw the game right here. I'm going to pause the game here and explain what I did. You can tell that I wasn't thinking very well. I wasted 2 or 3 of my shells just shooting to the side of the AT7 when I could have just waited for a little bit and driven around behind him and shot him in the back, and that would have been mostly penny most of the time. But the misplay I did was I wasn't paying attention that he had reversed the direction that he was turning, right? And because my tank was facing this way, right? Tanks drive faster forward than backward, right? So when you're outmaneuvering either a tank destroyer with a fixed gun or a heavy tank with a slow turret traverse, you always want to be having your tank facing the opposite direction that they're trying to, or facing the same direction that they're trying to turn, right? If they're trying to keep up with you with traverse, because you drive faster forwards than backwards, right? And I didn't stop and turn my tank around and start driving this way until way too late right here. And it's almost gonna get the game lost here because, and probably should have lost the game here because I wasn't paying attention, and I just get in front of his gun again. Just get in front of his gun again there. And I almost throw the game there. To my defense, like I said, like I said, really bad marksmanship. I waste 2 more shells, and it's taking way too long to kill this 87. Oh gosh, I'm playing so badly right now. It's so bad. Really, really bad marksmanship, really bad gameplay right here. Technically, this AT7 could have driven up against the side of one of these buildings, either on this side or on this side or over here, long time ago, and he could have forced me to run away because I wouldn't be able to keep traversing him. But fortunately, he stayed in the middle and just tried to traverse with me, and that was the worst thing he could have done. So that doesn't mean that I played that engagement well. I played that engagement terribly. Absolutely, I played that engagement terribly and took way too long to kill him. Almost through the game by not paying attention to him reversing his tank traverse, and almost got me killed before I reversed my tank hull and was able to start driving the other way. So almost a throw there, but we were able to come around and pull out the game in the end. In my defense, like I said at other points in this video, my head felt like I was underwater and I had a really bad fever. So that's sort of an explanation for it, but not really. I should have been aware of the things and made better gameplay decisions. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this game and watch the almost throw by me and saw despite all the mistakes that I made in the game, we were still able to win it because the enemy just made more mistakes than I did. So, and the rest of my team. So, the old common saying of "if it's stupid but it works is not stupid" is incorrect. As I've always said, if it's stupid but it works, that just means that the opponent, the enemy player, just made more mistakes than you, and what you did was still incorrect and still a bad decision. So. That's always why it's a good idea to be self-analytical and not just always looking at other players to see what they did good or what they did bad. Also be self-critical, be self-analytical, and see what you could be doing better yourself. So that's what I try to do. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed watching this game, and sorry for the length of this video. I know it's going to be really long considering my pre-game ramble at the start of this video. And like I said, I'll put a link in the video here if people just want to skip that and just watch the gameplay. So thank you so much for watching this video in the Tier 7 Scout Tank, the American T71 DA, also formerly known as just the T71. And hopefully this game gives you guys an idea of the firepower of this tank and its capabilities that way. It also has some vision potential as far as view range and spotting is concerned, but this game didn't show much of that. So maybe another game down the road, I can show you guys a game like that in this tank. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Happy hunting and take care.